Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. My name is Ivana Harinkyu if you are new here, and if you're not, thank you for coming back. Today is Monday, February the 7th, and we're going to talk about something a little bit different today, and that is UAB's School of Business, the Collat School of Business, and a program that is in the School of Business that recently received a very prestigious national award. Today, I am joined by Dr. Patrick Murphy. He is the Goodrich Entrepreneurship Chair and Professor. Had to look down and make sure I read that correctly, Dr. Murphy. It's a mouthful there. And he is at UAB's Collat School of Business Entrepreneurship program. Now, the program has recently won the Model Emerging Program Award at the National Excellence in Entrepreneurship Education Awards. Again, kind of a mouthful there, but essentially what that means is this national group named UAB's program the best kind of young program in the country. That's a big deal, Dr. Murphy. And I want to talk a little bit about the award, about the program, and just how that program has really become one of the leading programs in the country.
Thank you, Ivana. It's wonderful to be here. I'm happy to talk about the program. There's a lot of people here who have done a lot of work, a lot of fantastic students, a lot of great entrepreneurs in the ecosystem, and we are firing on all cylinders right now.
It really sounds like it, Dr. Murphy. And we're a few minutes late getting started here because Dr. Murphy and I were just talking about UAB and about the growth there, and also about how you are new to Birmingham, Dr. Murphy. So I know you moved here to come to UAB to start this program. So the program only started 2 years ago, and that's how it was eligible to get this new Model Emerging Program Award. I know you mentioned that award is only for younger programs. So tell me a little bit about how this program has started and how it's progressed to now into receiving that award.
Sure. So my wife and I arrived here in 2018, came here from the city of Chicago. I was at DePaul University for 16 years, entrepreneurship professor, and this opportunity came up for this endowed chair and to build this program, this entrepreneurship program at UAB, and it was just a wonderful opportunity. We researched the city and we looked at Alabama, and everything just looked great. So we jumped in with both feet, and that was in mid-2018. I have some experience building academic programs in universities, and I know how long it can take. There's a lot of bureaucracy, and we operate on faculty governance, which means there are committees of faculty who vote, and if you don't get the votes, you don't get your program. But in looking at UAB, I saw a very progressive urban university in a great city, and I thought, you know what, we could actually really build an avant-garde, very progressive, high-impact entrepreneurship program there. So knowing how long that it takes to get these things approved, because a new degree program, for example, has to go all the way up to the Board of Trustees in the state system, in the Alabama system, it takes about 1.5 years. So redesigning the courses, designing new courses, the curriculum, talking about the sequencing of courses, retitling them, finding the content, getting them all approved, going through the various levels of approval all the way up to as I say, the Board of Trustees and the Alabama Commission on Higher Education. It just sailed right through, to be perfectly honest. It's a very large bureaucracy, but I would say it's a very friendly bureaucracy, and it was embraced, and the community got behind it. And we launched, as I say, about a little over 2 years ago, and we had 0 majors in the entrepreneurship program at that point. We're approaching 100 right now. We have raised over $2 million to support our program. We've received a range of gifts, tens of thousands here and there. We received a very generous gift from Medical Properties Trust and the Aldag family for an entrepreneurship scholars program. We just hired our first program manager. I brought on 3 new adjuncts. We have partnerships with Innovation Depot and others in the ecosystem. And basically what we're doing is we are teaching a rigorous theory-driven program, an academic program, but that's about 50% of what we do. The other 50% is applied. So I don't believe you can really teach entrepreneurship effectively unless you give really bold concepts that change the way the learner views the world, but then you have to apply them to entrepreneurial settings where there are people actually trying to launch new ventures, grow new projects, make impact, challenge the existing order. And through the application of the theory, you learn really what doesn't work and what works, and then you make it your own and grow. So that's what we're doing. In Birmingham, the ecosystem here has been phenomenal for that. I think we have unique advantages because we're an urban university, and the future is very bright. We're very optimistic about where we're headed with UAB entrepreneurship.
You said that you literally went from 0 to 100 in 2 years, and that is a number one, we all know that the last 2 years have been anything but normal in the world, and Birmingham UAB, unfortunately, is not immune to that. I wish we were. And so you look at 2 years, 0 majors in that program to now about 100. That is incredible. And that, again, is part of why UAB qualified for this award as being the best new program, the top new program. But also there were just, I believe you said, 4 recipients of awards in this this kind of grouping from this national group. So that is going up against a lot of bigger cities, a lot of bigger schools, or programs that maybe have more people enrolled, more majors. So tell me what makes UAB's program, although it's young, what makes it so different from other programs?
Yeah, we have a couple of advantages here. As you noted, we launched in the middle of the pandemic, and that anytime there's a recession or a downturn or any kind of sociological pivot or anomalous event that happens like that, people tend to pivot their lives. They come back to school. Sometimes they switch careers. That is usually really good for entrepreneurial activity. I mean, and it's been true throughout history. A lot of people may not know that the firm formation rates were highest in this country historically ever during the Great Depression, especially right after it. And anytime there's anything like that that happens, it tends to be good for entrepreneurship. So we had that going for us, but that's not enough. What I think is really going on here is that the generation of learners, Gen Z and the young people who are entering university right now, they're extremely entrepreneurial. I would imagine that probably 75% of them at least can see entrepreneurship in their future. And it's not because they are anti-establishment or they don't like following rules or anything like that. I personally believe it's because they're the first generation that actually grew up with technology, information technology that works really well. So like when I was growing up, we had browser hangups and all kinds of like connection problems and things like that, but they're native users, so they've been able to find things they like, ignore things they don't like as they've grown. And what that does is it allows an individual to force a strong sense of independence and purpose about what they want to do in their life and in their world, and that is very in line with entrepreneurship and an entrepreneurial career. So I taught millennials for 2 decades, and I'm seeing much more focus on entrepreneurship right now with Generation Z. So we have that going for us as well. Another thing we have going for us at UAB Entrepreneurship is we are in Birmingham. It's a great city. The entrepreneurial ecosystem here is intense. We have a lot of technology ventures. We have a lot of socially purposeful ventures. We have a rich history in civil rights and diversity, which includes a lot of crossing of boundaries and education and making positive impact that makes a social difference. And motivations like that are very much in harmony with entrepreneurial careers. That is an asset for us, and it's something that we do very well. Another thing that I think we have going for us that really made us stand out, and as you mentioned, there's some major universities who got these awards. Northwestern in Chicago got one of them. Southern Methodist got one. Virginia Tech got the top program award, and UAB got the top new program award. What we've been able to do here is build a very progressive curriculum. So the entrepreneurs listening understand that in an entrepreneurial venture, it's very organic. The traditional functions of business don't apply in the same way that they do in a large established business. So, for example, if you're hired to do marketing work in an entrepreneurial venture, you're probably going to be familiar with what the accounting team is doing or the finance team. You may even be sitting right next to them, hearing conversations, and you're aware of how the ramifications of your actions and your decisions affect other functions. So you need to be ambidextrous and think in terms of multiple functions. So we've modeled that right into our courses. So for example, we have strategy and operations together in one class. We have accounting and finance together in one class, sales and marketing. We also have a required class, which is very popular, in social and community enterprise, which is not nonprofit per se. It includes a lot of the nonprofit work, but really it's for-profit ventures or benefit corporations that make a social impact and generate more than one type of value with one operational model. So based on earned income and fee-based revenue, they charge a fee for what they're doing, but they are also helping maybe a historically excluded population or something that's good for the environment at the same time. And so we target social problems and ecological problems that the state historically may be targeted, but entrepreneurial ventures can do that without the kind of bureaucracy, and they can tailor the approach to different communities. So we have a class in that that's really popular as well, and the young people really like it.
Well, and I have to wonder as well if the pandemic and the way that the pandemic has kind of reshaped work life has made an impact on your program and made an impact on your students that are coming into the program. We look at the way people, I mean, I'm still working from home, obviously. We are still working from home after 2 years of this. There are people that are having to juggle children at home who are still doing virtual learning. There are people that are having to juggle sick family members or juggle family members that live with them and they don't feel comfortable going out. There are all kinds of things that have reshaped work. And we have seen that with so many people, millions of Americans who have been leaving their traditional jobs and trying to forge a new path. So does that kind of factor into your program and just the new work that we are going to be seeing here in the years following the pandemic?
It does. Anytime there's change in the environment, it typically generates opportunities. And as well, anytime there are problems in the environment, whether it's pandemic related or work home arrangements, I mean, problems are where all entrepreneurship starts. That is what generates opportunities. Like I mentioned earlier with the Great Depression or, natural disasters and things like that. So the pandemic and all of the ancillary problems and the prevailing circumstances associated with it, they do generate a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities. And so, for example, a lot of our students were, whether it's things with masks or transportation solutions or ways to collaborate remotely, which are all related to the what we've all had to live with over the past 3 years. A lot of the entrepreneurship right now is related to that. But at the same time, I would push it even a little bit further. I think what our students and the entrepreneurs of tomorrow are really trying to do, they're trying to get us to exit this situation and get back to some sort of semblance of regular functioning where one can go out and, not worry as much about the different restrictions and whatnot. And we're not there yet, but people are thinking about that and trying to resolve the problems and the inefficiencies associated with this time through entrepreneurial solutions. And oftentimes it's technology or communication or education. And so I like that a lot because when you say entrepreneurship starts with problems, it embeds a constructive logic into the way that you view the future. And that's important to me as a university professor who's training the leaders of tomorrow. We want that. We want them to not shy away from problems. In fact, we want the opposite. We want them to be attracted to problems and be comfortable with uncertainty. And one of the things we're doing in our program, another class we have in the major called the Entrepreneurial Mindset, is really, I call it the cornerstone course, but it's the first one they take. It's a 200-level course, and we just challenge a lot of assumptions that young people have. So the notion of embracing uncertainty, the notion of being different from everybody else and being comfortable with that, and just getting to know yourself. Because like I mentioned earlier about the purpose that a young person has, that's your key right there. Whatever it is that makes you different is what will enable you to make a difference. And so you have to embrace that. And I think a good entrepreneurship education in a university can light that spark in a young person and whatever makes them different or diverse, and then they can embed that into their professional futures. And if you have that kind of mindset, I think it becomes a lot easier to become an entrepreneur, to go work for another entrepreneur. And I mean, that's what generates jobs, that's what makes impact. And I think we're starting to see some of those outcomes here, which has been great for our program.
A few things that the group noted when awarding your program, this top new program, was the momentum, vision, and then the faculty and staff of the program. So to me, that momentum and vision kind of go together. We know the momentum is going because, again, we went from 0 to about 100 in 2 years, 100 majors there. So when you look at the future of this program, where do you see it going in the next several years, in the next 5 years? And also, how do you see this program overtaking one of the awards once it kind of ages out of the top new program into being the top program in the nation?
One of the things that we emphasize here is that it's important to think globally but act locally. So everything that we do here, I think in terms of the three I's. Everything we do has to have impact, has to make an impact. It has to be inspiring, and it has to have some ingenuity. Impact, inspiration, and ingenuity. So the impact piece is what we do for Birmingham, for the state, in terms of new jobs, new employment, fundraising, hiring, bringing people here, moving into the state of Alabama, offering new services to different types of communities. All of that has to do with impact. And we even build that into our program through our outreach practice. We have a lot of class-based student team outreach to entrepreneurs, and we're actually working with 8 local entrepreneurs right now. So the impact will magnify, it will grow as we scale up, as we bring more faculty in. We're going to be perfecting and ramping up that impact. Nationally, we want it to be replicable. So I believe we do outreach-based learning here really particularly well. It's something that I've done over the course of my career, and I have a whole model that we use. And we want other schools to use that. We want them to use what we can share with them at national conferences and elsewhere. And we want UAB to be a leader in outreach-based entrepreneurship education. So I think we're well on the way to achieving that. Another thing that we'd like to do, we're in the middle of a $5 million fundraising campaign right now. We want to raise a lot more money for UAB entrepreneurship. We have a dedicated space over at Innovation Depot that we want to reimagine, rebuild, redesign, and use it for events and pitch competitions and meetings. And we can teach over there and do a lot of that sort of activity. Here at the university, what we want to do is grow the program and actually spin it out and make it its own distinct unit within the School of Business. So imagine like a school of entrepreneurship, perhaps a named school or a unique program where we have dedicated faculty and staff, and it's all about entrepreneurship. Currently, our classes in the major are distributed across all the departments in the business school. We're not, I mean, every department, every professor, every tenure line is housed within one department. We are in the MISQ department, but the classes that are required in our major are distributed across the entire school. So we're kind of geared for that sort of branching out in the future anyway. And I think as we continue to make more impact locally, we'll be able to do that. So these are the types of things that world-class entrepreneurship programs do. And we have all of the right foundations in place now. And 3 years on, you know, it's not just me telling people around UAB and around Birmingham that we can do this. We actually do have the dollars and the students and the impact, and we're attracting young people to UAB. And so I think now we have stories to tell and to share, which is only going to accelerate our growth. But I do believe we'll continue to break out on the national scene and make international impact too. We want to do a lot of study abroad trips, for example. That's something we can do at a university. It's great for our students. It's great for wherever we visit, great for Alabama, puts us on the map. So we'll be doing a lot of that sort of work too.
Well, and you mentioned earlier that your connection in Birmingham and your location in urban location like Birmingham has really helped you and your students because you have things like the Innovation Depot, like the Harbert Center. I just can, off the top of my head, think of several Birmingham-based entrepreneurs that I know even personally. So you have a lot of people in this space in Birmingham. So are you utilizing all of those things that Birmingham has to offer for your program and kind of getting your students out into the world a little bit?
We are. And I got to say, the community has really stepped up. We have a strong community here in terms of people actively supporting what we are trying to do. For example, I don't even have to market the outreach consulting projects that we do with the entrepreneurs. I get cold calls, probably 5 a week, from local and regional entrepreneurs who would like to work with our students, hire our students. They have internship opportunities for our students. And so I keep track of them, and we enter I'm using a Google Doc to do it right now. By the way, we just hired a program manager. She just started today. So we're building administrative capacity to handle a lot of this stuff. But it's a great advantage when you have an urban environment like this that has an entrepreneurial culture. if you build an entrepreneurship program in the right way, you can make impact on that ecosystem for sure. But man, it can accelerate what you're able to do within the university, because if students, I can share theory and I can share really interesting models and we can have inspiring conversations, but then when they're working with an actual entrepreneur and applying what they learned in the classroom, and that entrepreneur is like, oh man, I never thought of that approach before. So the entrepreneur is getting something out of it and the students are getting something out of it, and those projects can turn into jobs. There's just all these verticals around this kind of activity that we are going to very intentionally take advantage of. And we also, I just want to add, when I said think globally and act locally, it's really super important that you build a program to fit the local culture. So Birmingham, as I mentioned earlier, with the history of civil rights and the various communities and the neighborhoods, we need to build programs that engage specific groups, specific neighborhoods, make impact on those communities. And that is the way to really achieve excellence, when you start making impact. Otherwise, you have like a university that doesn't really connect with the environment, and professors may talk to other professors at other schools, but that's not what we want to do. We want to make impact outside of our boundaries on the world around us in our local community.
Seems like what you're kind of saying is you really want to branch outside of 13th Street, or you really want to kind of get out there and just not keep everything in the classroom, and kind of expose people and expose the students to the real world, especially of entrepreneurship.
That's right. Yes. Birmingham deserves that. I think UAB has a responsibility to serve Birmingham. It's part of our mission. I mean, let's be honest, the strategic plan and outreach, it's a huge part of what we do here. But I think every single program here, entrepreneurship included, has a responsibility to expose what we're doing within these walls to the outside community and help and support in every single way that we can, because it is great for our students, but it's great for the community too. And a university can do things that no other type of organization can do. We have access to the global universe of knowledge that's out there in the research journals and the various programs, and we're connected with my peers at other universities who are building programs, and we talk all the time. So we bring the best practices here, but then, as I say, we tailor them to make local impact as much as we can.
Dr. Murphy, congratulations on your program getting this top emerging program model award. That is a huge deal for you, for the program, and for UAB as a whole. So congratulations to you and to UAB. And thank you for coming on today, kind of explaining this and kind of breaking it down for those of us who maybe drive by the Collat School of Business and think, that what's going on in there.
Thank you, Ivana, and you're very welcome. I enjoyed the conversation. Really appreciate it.
Dr. Murphy, thank you again. Everybody watching, thank you so much.